warm-up. Make sure you guys get all the leg stuff in, all the lunges, all the Frankensteins, the side-to-sides. Give me 4 sets of the plyos, legs, and then let's go 1 set of core, sit up with a twist, and then planks. Right? Make it about 10 seconds. Just get it in, right? So that we can kind of talk about what you're doing. You guys can do it on the edge of the grass over there. So what I'm doing is I'm basically giving them the instructions to go off and get 3 of those systems ready to go for throwing. And then we're gonna get, well, sorry, not the braking system. Basically the engine and the transmission, the core and the legs. And then we're gonna jump on the band as well. But at the same time, I'm gonna talk about mechanics, and I'm gonna talk about it from a little bit of a pitching perspective and not so much from a position player perspective. But before I do that, let me talk about when I talk about the engine and the legs and how we actually create energy, right? So in physics, as we stand there, our bodies have weight, and that weight creates a force, okay? The only reason we don't go through the ground is because here's that force vector that my body is applying in the ground. The reason that I don't move and go through the ground is because the earth is giving me a force vector right back, and they're equal. If they're equal, there's no movement. But if you can apply more force down into the ground, this will give you more force back up. It's called a normal force, if you guys remember some high school physics, right? So if we can apply more force into the ground as a pitcher, as a thrower, we can get more energy to come back out. And that's a combination of skill and strength. So when, let's take for example 6, 7, 8-year-olds. They don't have a lot of strength in their body. Legs, they don't have the skill either, the understanding of how to do this. So what they do is, if they can't create the force into the ground and out of the ground, what is their perspective for throwing now? And let's go back to the 90%. What do they want to do? But they don't know how to get that energy and move it up the chain through the arm, so it becomes an all arm. And let me add a second part to that. Let me grab a base. The second part to that is those young players, when they throw, they're trying their best to even hold on to the ball. Small hands, are using 3 fingers. Now, and I'll get into the mechanics a little bit more, but we should have that ball, fingers facing down, hand down as we come through, and it's going to flip up. It's always kind of facing away from us, but what does a young player have a tendency to do? Cock it, or even before that, they open the hand so that the ball can stay in the hand. Once they open this way, now they're going to be pulling that through the bicep and through the shoulder, and they're going to have a weird type of throw. Every player, all those young players are going to compensate in some way. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more later after we do some throwing. But we want, even if they hold 3 fingers, we want that hand to be down. If you're seeing this early, that's bad. That's going to turn into a bicep labrum problem. It's going to turn into bad habits, and it's going to be hard to break down the road. Right? If we see getting too long on the backside, we're pulling through that bicep, right? Just put your arm out there like this. You can feel that tension. Imagine now you're trying to throw it hard and pull through, right? Versus having that arm a little bit closer. So these are some of the issues that I see at the younger levels, and we're going to talk about how to start spotting some of this and how to change it, how to help players for that. But let me talk about some of the mechanics from a pitching perspective that I talk about with the high school and college players, is staying close. Exactly, right? So, what's your name? James. So James is my target. Staying close is showing the back shoulder, the back number, the back pocket, my heel to him, and then firing that open. And at the same time, I'm getting the energy out of the ground, pushing into the ground and getting that out, staying close, and then at the last moment, boom, bringing that through, right? back leg load. This goes back to the normal force and what the earth is giving back to us. So if you have strong legs, and then I got a little off topic with the younger players not having that leg strength, so this is where I'm coming back, is the ability to put energy into the ground, and the ground is going to give that back to you, right? So leg development is important because that's your engine. That's what's creating all the power. If young players don't have that ability yet, but you start to see it at about 10, 11, 12, where they're starting to like understand it. 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, we don't have to worry about that so much, but start planting the seed is kind of what I'm saying. Like, how do you get, like, maybe ask the question, how do you get it? Where are you throwing the ball from? Let's try from the ground up. You don't have to get into all the technicals. From the ground up. Try throwing from your legs. Try firing the hip, right? Just start planting the seed at that age. I see a lot, even at the high school, college level, where they're not fully utilizing their glove side, their glove arm. I see a lot of falling, and if this falls and this opens, this is going to compensate here, and it's going to drag. Because at the end of the day, as they're going through their throw, whether it's a position or a pitcher, the body wants to be balanced, right? We're not going to fall over, so this arm will come out here. What this arm does, this arm will want to do it's equal and opposite, right? So if we set up nice and compact here, this will be compact too, because now we're working them together here. So what I see is a lot of this, which leads to open, which can lead to problems. And what we want is thumb down and a glove tuck. And I like to teach this thumb is coming right to your target, right? And it doesn't matter where exactly you tuck, but it should be tucked to the body. And here's the physics example that supports that. Figure skater doing their thing on ice. Are they going slow with arms like this or fast? Slow. And then what happens when they do this? Fast. Pitching is the same thing. If you get long, it's hard to rotate that mass of the arm on both sides. If you are compact, right here, boom. That's like the ice skater bringing that together. And boom, you're gonna speed up, boom, and the ball's gonna jump off.
So let me interject here one quick second. So those of you that have been able to attend some of our workouts that we do, when we're doing our warm-ups and we go through those steps, we're planting the seeds of a lot of the things we're talking about here. So you can plant those seeds at a very young age.
Yes.
As early as T-ball. So, and especially when we start getting to coach pitch, player pitch, and then majors and things like that. So anyways, so what we're talking about here is what you can build into any age level to get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. So when I started with Warren's group 2 years ago, I was like, well, how young is young? I was like, oh, how am I going to teach some of this stuff? They pick it up. Now, it's a lot of information. It's a different way to think about things. They pick it up. It takes a little bit of time. And slowly, we're talking about the penny dropping, the light bulb going on. They start to pick it up. It's like, ooh, and it's piece by piece. Sometimes you see a little velo, sometimes like, ooh, he threw 2, 3 in a row, spot on, and then it disappears, and then it comes back a little bit later, and then it disappears, and more comes back, and then eventually they're getting more consistent at doing some of these things. Okay, so let me, so I talked about the thumb down, right? So, and these are things that I think even at the younger level. Let me grab my.
And also what he's taken away, Alonso and I are going to be working with our T-ball player pitch, or coach pitch teams, to kind of talk through what we recommend on how the younger levels can start implementing at least some of this.
Yeah.
And so by the time they get to minors and majors, it's already there, right? So that's our long-term goal.
Yeah. So I'm giving you kind of the high school, college level talk here. So thumb down. So I showed you without the glove. But basically, whether you're throwing, right, you're going to have thumb down and then tuck that in. So when you see a young player dropping that glove, show them how to glove tuck that, and it should basically be bringing it somewhere in here. It's going to be different for each player, but it should be tucked to the body. That's going to help them. As this tucks in, this will tuck in more compact. This flies out, this wants to fly out as well, okay? And being able to spot that out in a young player and just say, hey, give me a glove tuck. And I still, even when we're practicing, these guys have been, and I start to see, and it's not a laziness, it's just a habit that has been developed from a very young age to maintain their balance as they throw, because they don't have the balance and agility and strength that a 16-year-old has. So they're going to compensate in all kinds of different ways, and you're trying to help them to break those habits early so that they can have a longer career. I see a lot of players, even at the high school level, that the mechanics are off, that I can see the little league in them. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, so let me keep going through. Back leg load and unloading. So, and this is from a pitching perspective, I see a lot of players standing straight up to begin with, and then trying to get something out of that, right? So from a pitching perspective, you should try to get that load right away. Some little bit of load, that it's engaged. I'd like to say 60-40, feel that, and then try to get that a little bit more before we go off and throw. And it's not much different when you're fielding as well, right? So it's like, how do I get that load? Stay down low, drive through that leg when you're actually throwing it from a position perspective as well, right? So we got the back leg loading and unloading, and at the end, from a pitching perspective, one of the things we want to see is loaded, unload, and then the straight leg, because that's going to pop the hip, which is then going to accelerate on the rotational aspect of the throw. So I'm getting a little bit technical. It's a lot of information. Let's see, from a pitching perspective, then a tabletop finish, right? So if we're throwing, that's that absorbing, and the tabletop finish is basically, here's the top of the table, here's the leg of the table, boom, right, finish. Instead of seeing players who stop here and bang the arm, they stop right here because there's no leg strength, no balance. They don't want to put it on here, so they're gonna stop, and then the arm does this, bam. And I call that the rusty gate. This is the hinge. We're just banging the gate over and over and over.
So one thing I want to point out about especially younger players and early players, when he's talking about getting your arm in the right position, we see a lot of the push of the arm. You see that with the leading of the elbow, and then they're coming through here. What we're trying to talk about, and we'll get through that in a minute here, but avoid that push of the arm and the dropping of the elbow below the shoulder. So that's how it's applicable, especially to young players, and we see it all the way through. Shoot, I see it in adult softball league. Yeah. So that's another thing, like that getting your body in the right position that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. So some of those issues that he's talking about is because the legs and the core are not all there, and they're compensating in a different way to get the ball where it needs to get to, right? So it goes back. So we're going to actually run through. So they went and they did a dynamic warm-up. I don't know if you guys were watching some of the leg stuff they were doing. They did some plyometrics, getting the systems firing before we throw. And let me, okay, we're going to talk about that after the a little bit of throwing here. Talk about the warm-up to throw. Don't warm up to throw. Don't throw to warm up approach, right? Okay, so we're gonna go through a little bit of the band workout, which is addressing the braking system. And the way that I've designed this out, let me go off on a little bit of a tangent here. So a lot of this stuff on the routine, the development, the band, the long toss, I've taken parts from different pitching gurus. Tom House, you guys know who Tom House is? Runs his thing out of USC. I spent a week with him when I took my son, just kind of learning. Wow, what a brilliant baseball mind. I've talked with Alan Yeager, the guy that designed the Yeager band, and how that Yeager band came about. Well, I kind of already knew. And then I follow another guy, Tom Woolforth, out of Texas Baseball Ranch, out of, I think, Houston. And then I've added some driveline stuff. The band workout is Alan Yeager, and I kind of put my own spin on it based on understanding the mechanics and what the body is and what it's not. I talked about the ratio that we're stronger here than we are on the back muscles. So basically the ratio is about 2 to 1 in terms of strength and in terms of overall muscle of what we have on the front side versus the back side. So the band, I use that daily for my players before and after throwing to help them come into equilibrium. So if I have a 2 to 1 ratio, what do you think I should do to design my program to bring it into equilibrium? 2 to 1 back. So I call it the A through Z, 26 letters, right? A through Z, whatever, 24. we'll just say 24. So 24 movements, 16 of them will be back, 8 will be front, approximately. Now with younger players, like when we started out, I would do every single rep with them to get them used to it. Now they kind of go off and do it on their own. They'll forget about this or that. The exact order is not that important. It's kind of the ratio and that they're doing the band. It leads to good habits. It's getting your braking system firing. As they get older, more mature, more disciplined about what they're doing, it will more lock in place. So I would say like 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they're gonna kind of struggle. You got to get the right band from. There's a thin band, medium band, thick band, adult band, whatever, right? You got to make sure you get the right one and that they at least go through the motions to start getting into that type of routine. Okay, you guys ready?
So I would say for our league,
Grab
it should be implemented at least at what is now the AAA level, formerly minor A, at least. You can start it in the new intermediate. Coach pitch, I wouldn't necessarily focus on that, but the AA system where the kids are gonna start coaching, you could start talking about it. AAA for sure, it should be starting bands. Okay, so.